and welcome to episode 219 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is February 5th, 2024. Today I'm wearing a shawl that took me a really long time to knit. It's a pattern out of the book Celtic Cable Shawls by Lucy Haig, and I think she's very famous for the cable patterns that she designs, and they are very, very nice and very interesting, but they're not that easy to knit. So I cast on this shawl in August 2017, and I finished it in July 2021. So it took me about 4 years to knit this shawl, which certainly means I didn't knit on it the whole time. It was probably lying in some corner for years on end, but I kept picking it up and finally I managed to finish it. So the beginning of the shawl is really simple. I had 2 different yarns that I picked up during some holiday when we went to Austria, and this is Ferner Wolle. The company is called Ferner, and it's Austrian yarn. And I bought it specifically to knit this shawl, either this or another one from the book, but both are 2 color shawls, and I chose to knit this one. And then in the next holiday or some holiday later, I started knitting it. And because the beginning is fairly simple, you just knit a simple triangular shawl. One color is knit in stockinette stitch, the other color in garter stitch. And it's fairly simple until you come to a certain point, and I think there are 2 different sizes in the pattern, when you only knit with one of the colors. And for me, that was the more solid color. This is an almost solid hand-dyed color, whereas the other one was really very variegated. So I chose to knit with this color, and then I started the cable pattern. And because her cables not only run down the knitting, but almost like sideways, you have to do like yarn overs, and also the background is not reverse stockinette, but the background is knitting garter stitch, so that you have fewer rows in between the cables. It's really very cleverly done, and you can follow this line around, I think, the whole shawl. It just keeps... It's just like one interlocked knot or something. I don't know. It's really fascinating, but you have to really pay attention. And while I was knitting it, I was quite okay. But every time I put it down, it took me a really long time to get back into it. And I think at one point I made a mistake that I couldn't figure out straight away. So I put it down again. And then it took me a really long time to pick it up again. But finally, I finished knitting the cable, and then there's a little knitted on lace edge with the other color, and I finished it. It's not too big. I was thinking for a while, I was thinking of making it bigger, but the pattern repeats in the cable are so big that you need so many more rows to get in another pattern repeat that I was afraid of running out of yarn. So I decided I'll stick to the original larger size. I think there is a smaller size in the pattern. And I'm really, really very happy with it. Love it. So there's several holidays that this reminds me of. And the cardigan I'm wearing is the first project that I knit for the shop window display when I was working for Wollerödel. So at Wollerödel back then, that was used to be a chain of yarn shops throughout Germany, and all the models in the window display would be knit by the people who worked there. So we had experience with the yarn, with the patterns. If there was a mistake in the patterns, we would know about it because we had already knit it. And so I thought that was a really good idea. And but now they've changed things. The company has changed hands, so the new people running it are doing things differently. But anyway, so when I started working there, this was in the brochure. That was the one for that winter. And the cardigan was supposed to have been knit by my predecessor, the person who worked there before me, but she never delivered the cardigan. And when I said that I really liked it, I could imagine knitting it for myself. My boss straight away gave me the yarn and said, do it. And I knit the cardigan for myself. I really, really like it. It's quite old now. I've worn it a lot. And if you look at it closely, you can see that it pills quite a lot. But I don't mind. It's still nice and warm. There are no holes so far. It still keeps me warm. So yeah, I still wear it. My cousin also liked the cardigan a lot, but she's taller than me. Her arms are longer. So I actually knit the same pattern in the same yarn and the same color again. That's something I very rarely do. But yeah, I wanted to make it for her. So we have the same cardigan. But I think because she's taller than me, I think her sort of button band ended up being a different color. I can't remember whether it was gray or blue or turquoise. But yeah, so they did look a bit different. It was quite interesting. Yeah, so much to what I'm wearing today. Then on to finished objects. I have 2 finished objects today and 2 new cast-ons. So still keeping the number of projects the same. I'm still kind of trying to decrease the number of projects, but I'm not very good at it. So we'll see about that. So the older of the 2 projects that I finished is the Hexagon baby cardigan that I designed and knit. And I filmed a few tutorial videos, one for the beginning of the hexagon, the second for the 3 needle bind off that I did in the back, but that you can also do on top of the arm. And then the third video, I showed how I picked up the stitches for the little neckband. And I think I did a tiny little video just to show the finished cardigan. It's not been washed and blocked yet. I'll do that at some point, and I'll probably show it again when I've knit the hats that I want to go with the jacket. So I bought a pattern by Tin Can Knits, and when I show the finished hats, I think I'll show the washed and blocked cardigan. I think the cardigan came out really cute, really nice, but I think it's fairly wide and rather short. So both the sleeves and the body are wider rather than longer. So I am thinking of maybe blocking it a bit to lengthen both the front and back and the sleeves. So that's what I'm thinking about. We'll see about that. But otherwise, I'm really, really happy with it. I used 2 different opal yarns. I used the red yarn with the blue for the stockinette knit hexagons, and all the rest was done with the blue yarn that has a little red in it and was knit in garter stitch. And I think it's a really cute little cardigan. And once I will probably release the video sometime in March, when we will probably go away for just a few days, but then I will probably release it on that Monday, so I don't have to film a video, and you will still get a video on that Monday. That's the plan. The video is not finished yet because my husband hasn't put things together yet. But and I haven't translated everything yet. I think the last 2 bits I still need to translate, but I will get that done at some point. Yeah, and what I'm trying to say is once you have the video and you watch it, you can knit the cardigan in any size you like. You can do a little baby one, you can do a kid's one, you can do a grown-up one, because you always just knit to the size that you want to have. So you can knit the hexagon until it fits your arm. You can knit the width and the length the way you like it. You can lengthen the sleeves. You can do the neckband any way you like. So that should be a really good sort of pattern that you can follow to knit a hexagon cardigan, just like the crochet version that I did before. Yeah, so that's that. And then the other finished project is the Ruschia, however you pronounce it, hat that I knit from the book. It's called Masterclass Stricken. I keep forgetting what the English title is, but it's something like 12 techniques in a year or something. And this teaches you about short rows, So the hat is knit sideways. I did lots of short rows on the top of the hat, and I did a few short rows around here to keep the brim in a little bit. And there are some slip stitches just to create a little pattern. And then at the end, you sew the beginning and end together with Kitchener stitch. So you start with a provisional cast on, and I can't really tell where I sewed it together. So that worked out really nicely. And this is what the hat looks like. And my sister's going to come back tomorrow, and then I'll see whether the hat fits her or she wants a different one. Yeah, we'll see about that. But it's finished. Really happy that is done. Yeah, then on to works in progress. As usual, I'll start with the socks. And I knit quite a bit on my Soxx Look socks with 3 colors. So I'm using one colorful opal yarn, and then I'm using this purple, and I'm using the dark gray. And with this sock, I kept forgetting how far I got last week. So I kept thinking, oh, I have to add a bit. So there's some difference to last week. But now when I checked the old video, I realized I hadn't even knit the heel yet last week. So I knit the heel, and I knit almost half the foot, I would say. And so the heel is, again, the color stripes come out differently, but there's again the purple in this yarn and ended up in the heel. It's just the second part, not the first part of the heel, which is quite funny. And then I actually reproduced the mistake I made in this sock, because when I knit this sock, the blue triangles were supposed to stand on the point, and then suddenly they were the other way around. And that's because I made a mistake somewhere around here. And I think it's probably because the colorful yarn had so much gray in it, I got confused. But I made sure to imitate the same pattern on this yarn, on this sock. And as the colors come out completely differently in this one, I think it's a lot more obvious that the mistake is there are these little crosses here. They're not supposed to be there, but that's exactly what happened on this sock. It's just that it's a lot less visible. I think these are the crosses, but the lower part is gray, so they don't show up as clearly. Yeah, but now I don't have to pay attention. I just have to keep in pattern now, not make another mistake, because I'm now, I think, coming to the gray. So at the moment, both yarns look almost the same. I have to pay attention to stick to the pattern and then just see that I reach the same length as the first sock, and then at some point knit the toe. So that's the one sock that I kept showing at the beginning of the video, and I thought it's time to cast on another sock. And also I wanted to show off this series that was the latest series by Opal, but the new one is coming tomorrow. So I think some shops already received it and are already selling it, but for me it's arriving tomorrow. So I wanted to quickly show off this series called Showbiz. It was I got it in December, so it's the December series by Opal, and this is like the blue-gray, very quiet color that my sister picked to get socks with. But I'll quickly show the other colors just to let you know what's happening. So this is the light gray from the Showbiz. It's sort of a very similar color to the one that I used for the hat, only that was 8-ply and this is 4-ply. Then there's the green, blue, red one. Then we have a beautiful turquoise one with a bit of orange and yellow. So this is probably my favorite color of the series, or this one. That was already in the abo, in the subscription. So that's a dark blue with pink and turquoise. So really like that color. Then we have this very interesting sort of blue-green with orange and pink. I think it's a very different combination. Then there's like a dark red, almost brown color with yellow, green and blue. And then a really bright orange with yellow and some blue. Really like that color as well. So that's a Showbiz series by Opal. Just to let you know, oops, Okay, and I decided to knit my sister a pair of socks, and she likes shorty socks, and she doesn't really care whether they have a lot of pattern or not. So I decided to do a really simple sock with no ribbing, no nothing, everything in stockinette. So that just so that I have a project that I can just pick up and put a few stitches on without thinking at all, without looking at it. And so this gives me an easy project to do, and I will end up with a pair of socks for my sister, and she still hasn't got enough socks in her sock drawer. And by the way, talking about socks, I signed up for the Sock Madness this year. So again, there will be the Sock Madness, which is a worldwide sock speed knitting competition. And this is the 4th year that I'm taking part, but it's the 18th time that it's taking place. And it used to be that you could sign up all of February, but last year they changed it, so the sign up period is only from February 1st to February 14th. So the first 2 weeks in February you can sign up for the Sock Madness, and once your registration goes through, you will get the first pattern in the Sock Madness is always the qualification pattern. So you have 2 weeks time to knit this pattern without mistakes to the specified size. And if you do that correctly within 2 weeks, you will be put on a team, and then you can join the competition. So that's always very exciting. There's always interesting sock patterns, and when you take part, you get all the patterns for free. At the moment, I've seen the first warm-up pattern. I haven't checked whether the second has come out. There are usually 2 or 3 warm-up patterns during the time that you can sign up, so you can already practice a little bit. You can get into your sock knitting if you're not knitting socks all the time anyway, the way I do. So that's really exciting. Yeah, so these are the 2 pairs of socks for here. Then I continued knitting on the other baby cardigan that I started last week, and I'm knitting that as part of the pattern battle with one of the Opal the Opal subscription yarns. And I have finished a few of the pieces. So this cardigan is knit in many pieces so that the yarn looks different on all the pieces and the direction changes. It's out of the Knit Happy with Self-Striping Yarn book by Stephanie Lotvin. So last week, I think this was the piece that I started with. So this is the side piece, and then a front and a back. And then I knit the other side piece that's knit the same way, but the colors look differently because I start in a different point in the color sequence. And then this is the front and the back. And then I picked up stitches from one of the pieces and knit sideways, and then I picked up the stitches from the other side, and then I joined them with a 3-needle bind off, but on the outside. So you're supposed to create this visible seam, which I really like. And because the gray stripes are so strong in this yarn, it really shows off the differences in the color sequence. So I think that's very, very interesting. So I think the next bit that I'm supposed to do is pick up for the fronts, and then knit the sleeves, and then knit the collar and the ribbing at the bottom of the cardigan. But I decided to continue with the sleeves. So just in case the 100 grams won't be enough to finish the cardigan, I would like the button bands to be in the same contrast color that I would use for the neckline and for the bottom of the cardigan. But I wouldn't mind so much about the arm ribbing, or the cuffs at the arms. So I've decided to first knit the sleeves, and then I'll knit the 2 fronts. And I think by then I will be able to see whether the 100 grams will be enough or whether I will have to use a contrast color. So that's that. Then I started another new project, and that's because Sarah Shearer, who designs all those gnomes that I keep knitting, she is the designer, or I don't know what it's called, but she's going to design 3 or 4 patterns for Leadingman Fiber Arts this year. So she got lots and lots of minis from them. And the first pattern that she designed in this series is called On Target, and it's a hat pattern. And, oopsie. And it was published a few weeks ago, and I did buy the pattern at once, but I thought, well, I'll see when I get round to knitting the hat. But then I realized that it's that the discount that you get at the beginning after it's been published, it wasn't just for 1 or 2 weeks, it runs through all of February. So I thought it'd be nice to knit the hat now. So if you like it, you can go ahead and get the pattern while it's a bit cheaper, while it's on sale. So you need 5 colors for the pattern, and you can use minis. I looked at all my minis and I wasn't too convinced. I didn't find 5 that really went together that I wanted in a hat. So I looked at my leftover yarn and I picked 5 colors from there. So I picked the dark gray. It's the same color that I'm knitting in the socks. Then I picked this gray green with a bit of yellow. And then I decided to use a solid green. And then I picked this color that my sister used to knit a children's hat. And then as the 5th color, at first I wanted to use a white color, but then I decided, because this yarn has not only has white, but it also has light gray, I decided to go for a light gray, and then it'll go back to the dark gray. And this almost looks like a full skein of yarn, but it's one of them. I think it's one of those that I used to knit those tiny little gauge swatches that I gave to my old school friend. So yeah, so I decided to use those 5 colors to knit the hat. And the hat is a beret. I think that's how you pronounce it. So it's a bit of a wider hat, and it's one that they like to wear in France. And I think I've knit a hat like that before, which was with the lace pattern and some mohair inside. So I'll have to do that again, but I gave it to a friend. But anyway, you start the hat with a rolled brim, rolled edge. That's the first color. Then the ribbing is knit in the 2nd color. And that was the first time I got a bit of a shock, because this is the yarn and I thought there'd be some dark gray, but there'd also be some color. And then some bits had quite a lot of color, but then the front of the hat didn't get any color at all. So there's this bit that's just dark gray. So it is lighter than the first color, but yeah, I was a bit disappointed. There's so little color there, but I probably wear the hat with sort of this side showing more. Anyway, the 3rd color was the solid green. So you increase stitches after the ribbing to get this wide hat. And then I knit so many centimeters, and then I changed to color number 4. And again, it looks really colorful when you look at the ball. And yes, there is some green in there, but I didn't think it'd be so much green. But at some, where was it? Yes, some bits really look very green. Yeah. By the way, I didn't knit so many centimeters. I knit 10 rounds, which is why I have the round counter hanging here. So this goes through 10 of those loops. Every time I start a new round, I'll switch to a different loop, and then once I get to the end of the chain, I know I can change colors. Yeah, but even though that it started off very green, it's now changing to other colors, and yeah, it's quite a fun knit. And then if everything works out the way it worked out with her hat, the last color is going to be the dark gray within the light gray, and then it sort of looks like a target, which is why she called the hat On Target. Looking forward to how this is going to go on. So that was that. Then we come to the bigger projects. The Geogradient by Stephen West. I again have no yarn hanging off it, so I finished the next strap. So this is what the edge looks like now. I'm sort of getting used to the pattern. Yes, the dip stitches take a long time, knitting back and knitting 2 together through the back loop, purling 2 together through the back loop takes a bit of time. but you get used to it. And then there's 4 rows of stockinette, and I'll try and finish the next stripe this week. Otherwise, not a lot to say about that. You've seen this quite a few times now. And the next project, I should have shown you the double face cowl, double knitting cowl, remember, but I didn't pick that up last week. So I'll try and do it this week. Didn't happen last week. But the 2 crochet projects that I have on the go, one of them is the summer pullover where I'm crocheting squares designed by Shelly Husband. And this used to be a round, like a circle, but it's getting more and more square. So I added, I think, 2 rounds to it. So in the corners, you can see these are really tall stitches to form the corner, and then fairly small stitches along here. And I think there's like 1 or 2 more rounds where I have different sized stitches, and then the edge should be straight, and I can start crocheting the same kind of stitches along the sides. And I've picked up the first square just to remind myself and you what that looks like. So that was the first square that I crocheted. So this is going to be either the front or the back of the pullover, and then this is going to be the other side of the pullover. And you can see it is still quite a bit smaller, so I'll probably finish all the rounds that are in the pattern, and then just add like 2 or 3 more. I will probably have to count the number of stitches I have on one edge, and that'll tell me how many rounds I'll have to add to the other one to get the same size. And then of course I have to, oops, wrong side. I have to block it. It's interesting, isn't it? This is the front of the square and this is the back. So there's so much less pattern visible on the back of the square. Yeah, really enjoying that. Hoping for the weather to get better. This is the front and this is the back. There's more happening on the back with this one because of all those ridges here where I crocheted into, where did I crochet into to get these ridges? Oh, it's the front post stitches. When you do that, the top of the stitch sort of falls to the back, and that's why it looks like this. And then the other thing happens when you crochet into the 3rd loop, then you have sort of the stitch lying on the front of the fabric, and that also happens in the corners. So also with these rows I kept crocheting into this 3rd loop, which I think is really not too easy to do, but it does give a really nice pattern. So I'll keep doing it. Yeah, that's the one crochet project. The other crochet project is my Whispering Pines pullover, and I almost finished the first sleeve. So last week I finished the yoke and I started the sleeve, and I kept crocheting, and I kept up the intervals for the decreases the way the pattern said, and I kept crocheting to and fro. So there is what looks like a seam. It's just from changing directions. And then I did the 10 decreases and the rest I crocheted straight. And I'm really happy with the fit and the way it came out. I will add 2 more rounds. I think I'll have to try on once more after I did the 2 rounds. And then the sleeve should be done. Then I'll do the second sleeve. And then at some point the front and back, but really happy. 8-ply sock yarn by Opal. Did I just move that? Oops, sorry. That's that. Then I continued knitting on my Evenstar skirt out of this Wollmeise lace, huge yarn ball. And I only knit, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds, but they take such a long time. There's so many stitches now on the needle, 540 or something like that. And the rows in between, I can't just knit without thinking, because now it's, I think you can see that there's a rib pattern happening here, and then there's a bit of lace pattern, and then there's the rib pattern again. So the lace pattern is fairly simple, and at the moment I'm repeating the same 4 rounds. I think I have to repeat them 5 or 6 times, so there'll be like columns that look the same, and then from there the pattern is going to expand and become more interesting again. But at the moment I just have to keep repeating. I've did 1.5 repeats of those 4 rounds, but as I said, it takes a long time. I'm not rushing it. I don't want to make mistakes, and yeah, I don't need it straight away. Doesn't matter how long it takes. Like with the shawl, it can take years, but once you finish it, you can wear it for many more years than it took you to knit the whole thing. So that's that. Yeah. Okay, and that brings me to our knit-alongs, and I'm still knitting on my banana sock, but it's almost finished. I think there's only 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 2 more of those reverse stockinette thingies, and then I can knit the toe, which is really quick because they're not that many stitches. And then I think I'll have knit enough banana socks for the moment. I'm sure I'll pick them up again at some point, but not right now. This is another 8-ply sock yarn. And I also knit on the other knit along that we are doing, where we knit reversible hats and haramaki. And I continued knitting on the 2-color brioche haramaki that I'm doing out of those 2 colors. So this is from the Africa series by Opal and some merino sock yarn by Hansa Farm. And last time I was saying that there was so much gray in my colorful yarn, like at some spots there seems to be lots and lots of gray happening, but I've now also had places where there's lots of red. So now it's very obvious that red is the main color, and then the gray is one of the contrast colors, and the other contrast color is the blue or the turquoise. And yeah, and it looks a bit different depending on which bit you look at. Yeah, I wonder if this will stay like the red bit and this will remain the colorful bit. We'll see. I'll just keep knitting, and yeah. And usually with my haramaki, I do them in 2 parts, like one part with this color, the other part with that color, or I'll change the pattern or something. But because I'm using 2 different colors already, one for the inside and one for the outside, my plan is to just keep knitting the whole length in this distribution. I could change the color, of course. I could do either a different color in front or a different color in back, or both. But right now, I decided I want to just have those 2 colors for the whole haramaki. Yeah, and that was everything I knit and crocheted last week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!